Enoch was the son of man. The church hid this for 2,000 years. 1. Enoch, the vanished prophet and heavenly scribe. In the sacred theater of Scripture, where every word weighs like thunder and silence speaks volumes, there exists a character whose mystery is more profound than many revelations. A prophet named Enoch. His story is not so much told as it is whispered. Buried within the sparse verses of Genesis, he appears suddenly and vanishes without a trace. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Genesis 5:24. 5 words on he was not. Shroud Enoch in one of the greatest enigmas in biblical literature. No genealogy continues after him, no grave holds his bones, no farewell frames his departure. Instead he is taken, not by death, but by God himself. And in that divine disappearance lies a spiritual explosion waiting to be unearthed. For centuries, the church left Enoch in silence. His story, too strange and too powerful, was sealed away. But silence is not absence. It is often divine restraint. And in the dusty caves of Qumran, hidden by exiled hands who feared the corruption of Rome, the silence breaks. Among the Dead Sea Scrolls emerges a book so daring, so apocalyptic, that it reshapes the understanding of heaven, hell, angels, judgment, and messiahship. It is the Book of Enoch. And within its pages, especially in the Similitudes of Enoch, chapters 37 to 71, a thunderous truth is revealed. The man who walked with God returns not as a memory, but as a cosmic judge, the Son of Man. The title Son of Man echoes from the mouth of prophets and apostles. But in the Similitudes of Enoch, it is not Jesus who bears that name, not at first, but Enoch himself. Enoch is not a mere recipient of visions. He becomes the vision. He does not merely prophesy judgment, he enacts it. He is shown seated upon the throne of glory, surrounded by angelic beings, dispensing justice to kings, rulers, and fallen spirits. The one who once walked in humility now returns wrapped in fire and glory. He is not metaphor, he is not symbol. He is the incarnation of righteousness, exalted by the Ancient of Days. And in this elevation, we are forced to ask, who was Enoch, really? The answer rattles the foundations of traditional theology. In the heavenly realms described in the Book of Enoch, the patriarch is transformed into a being called Metatron, the scribe of heaven, the angel who sits closest to the throne of the Most High. But Metatron is more than a messenger. He is called the Lesser Yahweh, a title that bends the edges of monotheism and dares to suggest that Enoch, the man taken from earth, has become a divine figure himself. In this role, he does not merely transcribe divine will, he embodies it. He becomes the interface between heaven and earth, the judge of souls, the voice of the invisible. And this is where the theological crisis begins. Because if Enoch is exalted, enthroned, and called the Son of Man, then the line between prophet and Messiah begins to blur. The New Testament uses the phrase Son of Man repeatedly to describe Jesus, a term most readers assume to be a poetic humility. But what if it is not poetry? What if it is a title, a role, a heavenly office passed through generations of the righteous? What if Jesus was stepping into an identity long prepared by Enoch, or even reclaiming it? This is why the church buried the Book of Enoch, not because it was irrelevant, but because it was too relevant. It revealed a vision of divine hierarchy, messianic identity, and angelic rebellion that threatened to upend the carefully edited canon approved by emperors and councils. The church could not control a Jesus who followed in the footsteps of Enoch, nor could it explain a heaven where a mortal man becomes a lesser Yahweh. So the book was exiled, not burned but buried, as if God himself ensured its survival for an appointed time. And perhaps that time is now. In an age where empires tremble and religion is dissected under microscopes of skepticism and revival, the voice of Enoch rises again, not as myth, but as warning, as blueprint, as revelation. He is the prophet who never died, the man who vanished into the arms of eternity only to return as heaven's own judge. His story was not erased, only hidden. And now it burns again in the hearts of those who dare to read what the church tried to forget, that the man who walked with God may have become the Messiah who judges in his name. 2. The Watchers, Nephilim, and Divine Judgment. Before Enoch is glorified as the radiant judge in heaven's throne room, before he becomes Metatron, the lesser Yahweh, he is chosen for a darker duty to witness the most terrifying rebellion ever recorded in the divine archives. The Book of the Watchers, chapters 1 through 36 of the Book of Enoch, unveils a chapter of cosmic history so devastating, so disturbing, that it has been exiled from sanitized Sunday sermons and buried beneath the marble floors of theological respectability. It is a story that predates the flood, predates the law, predates the church itself. It is the tale of angels, not demons, who fell not from weakness, but from desire. They were called the Watchers. Appointed by God to observe the unfolding of creation, these celestial beings were meant to be guardians of order, silent witnesses to the drama of earth. But what they saw, they did not merely watch, they wanted, they craved, and they made a decision that would fracture the harmony of heaven itself. On the summit of Mount Hermon, a place forever cursed by their actions, 200 watchers made a blood pact, not to serve, not to protect, but to rebel. They would descend from the heavens, take human women as wives, and breed with them. These were not metaphorical unions. They were physical, carnal, and catastrophic. The offspring of these unholy bonds were the Nephilim, monstrous giants, abominations who stalked the earth with insatiable hunger. They devoured animals, devoured men, and eventually devoured each other. Their very existence was a distortion of divine order, a mockery of the image of God. The world did not grow wiser in their shadow. It grew crueler, darker, more depraved. But it was not only the flesh that the Watchers defiled, it was the mind. These fallen angels brought with them forbidden knowledge, a contagion cloaked in revelation. Azazel, the ringleader, taught men how to craft swords and shields, not for defense, but for bloodshed. He taught women how to seduce with painted eyes and cursed jewelry. He taught enchantments, astrology, divination, tools of insight turned into weapons of destruction. Humanity did not evolve through this knowledge. It was poisoned by it. The natural order collapsed beneath the weight of corrupted wisdom, and earth became a sanctuary of sin. The blood of the innocent cried out from the ground, and heaven heard. God's response was not passive. His justice was not theoretical. The silence of the Most High shattered like glass, and from his throne he dispatched judgment, not through vague disasters, but through named and mighty archangels, each with a terrifying task. Michael, captain of heaven's hosts, was sent to seize the Watchers and bind them in subterranean prisons, pits of darkness where light has never touched. Gabriel, the herald of power, was commanded to turn the Nephilim against each other, igniting a war so brutal that their screams still echo in the memory of earth. Raphael was dispatched to confront Azazel, to hurl him beneath jagged stones in the wasteland, where his name would become a synonym for shame. And Uriel, the angel of wisdom and light, was sent to warn a man named Noah of the coming deluge, a flood not of symbolic cleansing, but of global annihilation. And Enoch. Enoch was taken not to flee, but to see. The prophet who walked with God was invited into the divine court, not to bask in holiness, but to witness horror. He saw the Watchers kneel in chains. He heard their cries for mercy. He was commanded to write their judgment, to document the fall of the mighty, the wrath of the Creator, and the flood that would soon wash the blood-soaked earth clean. What Enoch witnessed was not merely history, it was apocalypse, the blueprint of divine reckoning carved into the marrow of time. And in that moment, Enoch became more than a man. He became a scribe of eternity, the first prophet to record the justice of heaven in ink that would outlast empires. What Enoch writes becomes a warning for all generations, that angels can fall, that knowledge can corrupt, and that divine judgment is not a myth. It is real, it is precise, and it begins with the righteous being shown what the wicked refuse to see. Enoch did not seek this vision. It was entrusted to him. He did not ascend to glory first. He descended into horror, and that is why his voice echoes with such weight. Because before he became the Son of Man in heavenly light, he stood before the bones of angels, the ashes of giants, and the floodwaters of divine fury, and he remembered everything. 3. The Similitudes. Enoch is the Son of Man. But if the book of the Watchers is thunder, then the similitudes of Enoch are lightning, searing, unstoppable, divine. These visions, spanning chapters 37 to 71 of the Book of Enoch, are not dreams of comfort nor quiet meditations on the afterlife. They are revelations forged in the furnace of judgment, veiled in parable, yet blazing with cosmic clarity. The similitudes consist of 3 great parables, each building upon the last, each peeling back deeper strata of divine warfare, apocalyptic destiny, and the sacred mystery of a righteous ruler to come, the Son of Man. In the first parable, Enoch is shown a world engulfed in moral collapse, where wickedness rules, kings rise in arrogance, the innocent are trampled, and even angels look down in sorrow. Yet this state is not final. The heavens part, the veil lifts, a great throne is revealed, the holy ones descend, bearing books of judgment, and seated upon the throne is a figure of overwhelming radiance, a being so charged with righteousness that even the elect tremble before him. He is called the Son of Man, not a man of war, nor a dreamer cloaked in prophecy, but one chosen from before the foundation of the world, one appointed to cast down tyrants, raise the just, and fulfill the will of the Lord of spirits. The first parable reveals him, but the second unveils who he truly is. In the second parable, the identity of this enigmatic figure begins to coalesce. He is not merely virtuous, he is virtue itself. He does not carry righteousness, he embodies it. He is not a mirror of justice, but its original form. The Son of Man is described as one long hidden, concealed until the appointed hour, kept in reserve until the corruption of the world reached its tipping point. He is not a sudden invention, he is the primal intention. Exalted before the stars were hung, he is given dominion by the Ancient of Days, and enthroned not beside God, but within God's own glory. All judgment is entrusted to him, all power flows through him. He does not merely announce justice, he enforces it. He does not plead, he decrees. He comes not to warn, but to destroy the wicked, to dismantle false thrones, and to unveil the eternal light reserved for the faithful. He is terrifying. He is majestic. He is the visibility of God's will. Then comes the third parable, the final crescendo in this celestial symphony. Here, judgment is no longer a threat, but a present reality. The righteous are lifted into eternal illumination. The deceivers and kings of blasphemy are hurled into abyssal darkness. Earth groans, fractures, and is reshaped. The heavens rejoice. The angels sing. And all creation turns its gaze to the Son of Man as he issues the last decree, the sentence of eternity. But at this very summit of revelation, the similitudes unleash their most destabilizing truth, one so profound it fractures traditional theology at its core. The visionary, Enoch, the mortal, the scribe, is told something inconceivable. You are the Son of Man. Let that truth resound. Not a descendant of David, not a messianic figure born in Bethlehem, not Jesus of Nazareth, at least not yet. In this ancient apocalyptic drama, it is Enoch who bears the divine title. The man who once walked with God now walks in the fire of his throne. His human frame cannot contain such sacred magnitude, so he is transfigured. His spirit ascends. He is clothed in garments of glory, crowned with the authority of heaven, and renamed Metatron, the lesser Yahweh, the one who stands before the face of God and speaks divine judgment into the bones of creation. Enoch becomes more than the witness to the apocalypse. He becomes its executor. His pen becomes a sword, his voice the echo of eternity. This is no mere exaltation. This is the unraveling of theological history. Enoch does not support the messianic tradition. He originates it. He is not the shadow of Jesus. He is the prototype, the divine precedent. He becomes the first righteous man to ascend into heavenly governance, and in doing so, he challenges the core architecture of Western Christian messianism. For if Enoch is the son of man, then what of Jesus? Was Jesus the inheritor of Enoch's mantle? Was he a reincarnation of the heavenly scribe? Or did he step into a preordained office, one prepared by the one who vanished from Genesis only to reappear in glory? The similitudes do not whisper, they roar. Not because they are vague, but because they are too lucid, too disruptive, too divine to be ignored. They declare that heaven's throne is not reserved only for spirits, and that judgment will not descend from some distant star, but from one who once tread the same dust we do. Enoch is not forgotten, he is enthroned. He is not mortal, he is transfigured. And the world minor, blinded by traditions and bound by edited gospels, has yet to reckon with his return. Fourth, Enoch's influence on the New Testament and Christian theology. In the modern Christian world, the Book of Enoch is either dismissed as heresy or forgotten as apocrypha, a theological fossil buried beneath the polished marble of orthodoxy. Yet to the early church, Enoch was not fringe. He was foundational. He was not a voice to fear, but a prophet to follow. The earliest followers of Jesus did not merely know of Enoch's writings, they revered them, echoed them, and in many ways constructed their theology around them. The clearest evidence stands boldly in the Epistle of Jude, one of the briefest yet most explosive texts in the New Testament. In verses 14 to 15, Jude does not merely reference Enoch, he cites him word for word. Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000s of his holy ones to execute judgment on all. This quotation is not found anywhere in the Hebrew Bible. It is taken directly from 1 Enoch 1:9. Even more revealing is the phrase Jude uses, Enoch, the seventh from Adam, a peculiar phrasing absent from Genesis, but found precisely in the Similitudes of Enoch. This is not literary coincidence, it is theological inheritance. The New Testament did not invent the doctrine of divine judgment. It drew from a well already dug in the deserts of Qumran, a well flowing with visions the church would later bury. But Jude is only the beginning. In 1 Peter 3:19-20, the apostle describes Christ descending to proclaim to spirits in prison who disobeyed long ago when God waited patiently in the days of Noah. Without Enoch, this passage floats in mystery, but through the Enochic lens, it crystallizes. The Watchers, those rebellious angels who lusted after human women, were condemned and bound in darkness until judgment. Peter is not fabricating doctrine. He is quoting a tradition his readers already understood. Similarly, the book of Revelation, with its thrones, scrolls, angelic hosts, and the enthroned Son of Man, does not emerge ex nihilo. It echoes the similitudes of Enoch, where this very imagery is already present, already glowing with apocalyptic fire. Even the Gospels, particularly Matthew, ring with Enoch's voice. In Matthew 25, Jesus declares that the Son of Man will sit upon a throne of glory, separating the righteous from the wicked, like sheep from goats. This is not metaphor, it is reenactment. The third parable of Enoch tells the same story. The exalted judge enthroned in heaven, pronouncing final judgment upon the nations. The resemblance is not poetic, it is prophetic continuity. Luke, subtle yet deliberate, deepens the mystery. His genealogy of Jesus lists 70 generations from Enoch to Christ, a detail easily overlooked. But in 1 Enoch 10:12, God declares that the earth will be judged 70 generations after the sin of the Watchers. Is this a coincidence? Or is Luke quietly aligning Jesus with the fulfillment of an ancient Enochian prophecy? Scholars debate. The symmetry, however, remains striking. And so we are left with a theological fracture, a disquieting question. If the apostles drank deeply from the wells of Enoch, why was his book cast out of the canon? Why does the modern church treat it as myth, when the early church treated it as revelation? The answer may not lie in doctrine alone, but in danger. For Enoch's vision is not tame. It presents a Son of Man not as a humble servant, but as a terrible judge, enthroned, eternal, crowned with the fire of divine authority. And more provocatively still, That throne is not first occupied by Jesus, but by Enoch himself. In the Similitudes of Enoch, the prophet becomes more than a man. He becomes the scribe of heaven, the enthroned ruler, the lesser Yahweh. The one who walked with God becomes the one who judges in his name. This does not negate the gospel story, but it precedes it. It establishes a messianic pattern that Jesus appears to fulfill. Was Christ reclaiming the mantle of Enoch? Was he the reincarnation of the heavenly scribe? Or was he stepping into a divine office already made visible by one who vanished from Genesis only to reappear in judgment? This is the fracture that still haunts theology. Some argue that Jesus was exalted as the ultimate fulfillment of Enoch's vision, the embodiment of the Son of Man figure described in fire and glory. Others suggest the church buried Enoch's exaltation to avoid confusion, or worse, heresy. After all, one heavenly king is doctrine, two is dilemma. In an empire watching for any deviation from Roman orthodoxy, the exaltation of Enoch may have been too dangerous to preserve, and yet the echoes remain: the throne, the angels, the judgment, the Son of Man. None of these emerge first in the Gospels. All of them thundered forth from the mouth of Enoch, the prophet who disappeared from Genesis, only to return in a vision too powerful to canonize. His book was buried, his memory muted, but his theology lives, not beneath the church but within it, hidden in plain sight, waiting for eyes willing to see, that before there was Christ the judge, there was Enoch the scribe. 5. Dating the similitudes and their explosive implications. Dating the Similitudes of Enoch is not a sterile academic exercise. It is a theological earthquake. For the moment, their composition is situated prior to the Gospels. The very foundation of Christian Christology begins to tremble. Scholars generally assign the writing of these chapters, Enoch 37 through 71, to the period between 50 BCE and 50 CE, an era not of calm meditation, but of existential unrest. It was a time bathed in Roman violence, wrapped in prophetic longing, and pierced by the anguished cries of a colonized people yearning for divine intervention. This was the age of Caesar's iron shadow, of Herod's trembling throne, of priests seduced by power, and people gasping for a Messiah. It was the soil in which apocalyptic visions did not merely germinate, they ignited. And the similitudes, with their enthroned Son of Man, burning judgment, and cosmic condemnation of earthly rulers, exploded like divine wildfire in the darkness of imperial oppression. Curiously, the Qumran community, diligent keepers of sacred writings, do not preserve the similitudes in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Yet their absence is not a dismissal, it is a silence that speaks. Most scholars agree the sect may have begun to dissolve or scatter by the time these chapters were penned. Thus, the similitudes emerged not from within the library of Qumran, but from its ashes, born in exile, voiced from the margins, but forged in sacred fire. They do not read like soft prophecy or distant myth. They are cries of resistance in religious form, a liturgy of rebellion masked as revelation. Their villains are not vague. They are not metaphors of sin or disembodied demons. They are Rome, veiled in glory and blood. They are Herod, a puppet enthroned by empire. They are corrupt high priests, sanctified in gold, blind to justice, while the heavens construct a courtroom of fire. In this context, the similitudes are not spiritual poetry. They are spiritual warfare. They are resistance literature written in apocalyptic code. And at the heart of this cosmic upheaval stands not a future Davidic monarch, not a Messiah wrapped in secrecy, but Enoch, the vanished prophet. He alone is righteous enough to judge both the angels and the kings. He alone saw the sin of the watchers before the flood, recorded the corruption of man before the law, and walked with God in a time when the earth had lost its way. He is not portrayed as a messenger, he is the message. He writes not with ink, but with fire. And now in the similitudes he returns, not to warn, but to reign. Herein lies the danger and the reason this text is so often exiled from modern theology. For if the similitudes predate the Gospels, Then the image of Jesus as the Son of Man, enthroned in glory, surrounded by angels, separating the righteous from the wicked, was not birthed in Galilee. It was already alive in Jewish apocalyptic imagination. It was Enoch who first sat upon the throne in judgment. It was Enoch who stood beside the Ancient of Days. And it was Enoch who bore the terrifying title, Son of Man. The implications are staggering. Was the early church shaping the figure of Jesus in the image of Enoch, consciously or unconsciously sculpting Christology from Enochian clay? Or was Jesus the very fulfillment of Enoch's vision, not the author of the role, but its divine incarnation? Either interpretation destabilizes traditional narratives, for in either case the similitudes reveal a reality that mainstream theology has long hesitated to confront. Christianity did not invent the Son of Man, it inherited him. Enoch was not forgotten. He was remembered, veiled in myth, buried by councils, but pulsing beneath Scripture like a dormant star. And when the heavens opened and the Son of Man appeared, it was not a new revelation. It was the return of a figure once lost to time. The first to bear that title was not born in Bethlehem. He was taken from earth and clothed in judgment. He was the man who walked with God and vanished into glory.